Do you need a quick, easy, and fast project to spruce up your kitchen table? Well, today we're making a table runner. Hello, my name is Jenna, and today we are making a table runner, and we are doing it winter themed because I know we all need a good winter decoration in our house, and a table runner is perfect. What is actually really funny is while prepping for this video, I was testing out the pattern that I wrote. And when I was writing the pattern, I was like, I wonder if this is gonna be a little bit too big. So I made a example one, and I didn't do it in winter fabrics, but oh my gosh, look how big this turned out. I feel like this was so big, it could end up being like, you can lay it down on the edge of your bed. And so I sized things down, so it's still the same length, but it's thinner so that it'll fit on your table better. But this is so stinking cute. I found these super cute, sparkly blues and whites, and these we have at the Grace Fabric Shop in West Jordan, Utah. And so I thought I'd use them to make our cute little winter quilt. But first we gotta cut things out. For this winter table runner, we're gonna need to start with a bunch of 2-inch strips, 2-inch by width of fabric. But first, before we start cutting our fabric, I just wanted you to know that I wrote a pattern and it is for free in the description below. Just click that link and you can get it for free. And make sure to like and subscribe to the Grace Company YouTube channel because we are always doing fun stuff on this channel and giving out so many free patterns. Now let's get back to cutting. And when I cut my fabric, I like to line up the top folds of my yardage together. And then I'll square off my fabric just by lining up a random line on my ruler with that top edge. And then I can go ahead and square that off. And then for this quilt, we need a couple of 2-inch strips from all of these fabrics. And so I'm just gonna line up my 2-inch mark on my ruler with the side. And then I like the ergonomic cutter better. And so I'm gonna go and switch to that guy. Perfect. And if you want the exact number of strips you need to cut, it is in the pattern. And then I'll just cut everything else out and we'll be right back. Our strips are cut out and we are gonna sew a bunch of them together. So we're gonna have a white, dark blue, white strip, and we're gonna do 2 of those. And then we are going to do a dark blue, light blue, dark blue strip. So we need 2 of these guys and 1 of these guys, and we're just gonna strip piece them. And to strip piece, I just like to line up the edges of my selvage together, and I don't ever pin for these. I just like to line it up as I go, and we'll call it good. Every time it turns on, it sings you a song. Ready? How fun is that? It's so cute. We are gonna strip piece these together. Also, when we're doing these strip pieces, we're gonna cut from them later. So I like to use a smaller stitch length just so that when we cut them, things do not fall apart. And I'll do this one. I like to chain piece. So we're just chain piecing as we go. Okay, my strips are done, and before we press them, I just wanted to apologize to y'all because I realized, bad teacher moment from me, I forgot to tell you what these are for, and it's because we're making 9 patches with them, and we're bulk making 9 patches, and this is my favorite way to bulk make 9 patches. You just sew a bunch of strips together and then subcut from that. Now we're gonna press them, and when I press, I like to just press to the darker fabric, or you can press them in opposite directions, your choice. For this one, just because I have white on the sides, I'm gonna press these guys in. Here's my little trick for cutting these down all at once, and so we don't have to do it one at a time because that's gonna take forever. I'm gonna line up the bottom edge of my fabric with a line on the mat, and then I'm gonna take this next one and I'm gonna line it up 1 inch higher than this bottom guy. And then take this guy and line it up again 1 inch higher. You can do 2 inches technically if you want. And then now we can cut these guys down. I'm gonna create a straight edge right here first, and to do that, I'm gonna line up one of the lines on my ruler with the seam line, and then I can just cut this guy off. And then I can cut my 2-inch strips from this. And I'm using our True Cut ruler, and what's really cool about this is it hooks onto our rotary cutters, so then you're not sliding anywhere. I'm just gonna cut these all the way down, and from these strips you should get 20 pieces from each strip. And around halfway down, I like to just stop and make sure that my lines are straight and that I'm not cutting wonkily. Perfect, and look how easy and quick that was. Now I can just organize all these guys. Now we got all these guys, and we gotta turn them into a 9 patch and sew them all together. And so I'm just gonna sew them like this. And because we ironed our seams in opposite directions and towards that dark side, we can go ahead and nest them as we sew. And this should create 10 9 patches. So let's see if I did my math correctly. Look at this baby 9 patch, it's so cute. The seams, you're gonna wanna press open, and this fabric, because of the sparkles, is super stiff. So I'm gonna need a pressing block for that. I like a pressing block because it just makes the seams a little bit flatter. So I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna do the rest of these, and then I'll come back when all of my 9 patches are finished. We got all our pieces, and now it's time to put the table runner together. This is my favorite part because it just comes together so fast. So these 9 patches should be 5 inches unfinished, and then when we sew everything together, it's gonna be 4.5 inches. So I have a bunch of 5-inch squares of just this light blue fabric because this is going to be my background. So I'm going to have 2 rows of my 9 patches with my light blue blocks in between. And this is going to be pretty long. I'll do as much as I can on this table and then sew and then keep going. Our big blue squares are going to be in the middle, and then I have these guys for the edges. And then in the corners, I've got these guys. Ooh, so cute. The way we're gonna sew this together is in diagonal rows. And when you're sewing these guys onto your 9 patches, you just wanna make sure that the straight edge right here is lined up with the edge of your 9 patch. You will have some overhang right here, and that is okay. I did that on purpose, so then we can trim that down later. And then same with this corner block, when we line it up right here, we just want to line it up somewhat in the middle, and there will be a 1/4 inch of overhang on either side of this edge block. But I'm gonna go ahead and sew these all diagonally this way. Then we're gonna come back and press them and sew them all together. The rows are finished, and what's nice about these is when you piece them together, most of the rows look like this, so you can kind of chain piece them to all look the exact same. And then the side rows just have this piece different, and then you got the little edge pieces, and it's so nice. We are going to press towards the light blue fabric. So anytime there are a lot of seams next to some piece of fabric that doesn't have a lot of seams, I always like to press to the smoother fabric. That way our seam isn't as bulky. And I want you to notice that throughout this whole quilt, have I used any pins? No, I have not. If you would like to use pins, go for it. But the more you quilt and the better you get at it, you get routines in place that make it so you don't have to pin as much. And that is my favorite way to sew, because then I can sew faster, because pinning just takes forever. For this quilt, when I go to sew all of my rows together, because I'm pressing my seams in opposite directions, I can nest them and not have to pin. Also, we should take a poll. Are you team pin or clips? Because some people like clips and some people like pins. So in the comments, let me know. These are all nice and pressed, and now we are going to sew our rows together. And I want to show you what I mean by nesting our seams. Right here, these seams are pressed this way, these seams are pressed this way. When I go like this, these seams are going to be nice and locked right here. And so I can go ahead and pin these, or when I sew, which this is what I'm going to do, is I can hold where the seam is until I get it under my needle, and that seam will stay right, will hopefully stay right where it goes. But based off my experience in the past, we will be fine. I'm going to sew all of these rows together nice and diagonally, and then we will be right back to add the final borders, and then we'll be done. And to make this faster, I'm just sewing everything in pairs instead of sewing one row on at a time. This guy is looking beautiful, and technically you could just leave it as is, and it's going to be 13.5-ish inches wide. A typical table runner is around 16 inches wide, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a border to this. And I love a good double border, so we're gonna do a white inner border that is gonna finish at 1 inch, and then an outer border that's gonna finish at 3 inches. And when doing borders, a lot of the times patterns will have you cut a bunch of strips, and they'll have you sew together 2 strips of fabric for one side, then 2 strips of fabric for the other side, and there will be so much extra. And my favorite way to do a border is sew all of my strips together and then put them on the border. So we're gonna do it my favorite way because I'm the one sewing. Haha. Let me tell you one of my little pet peeves about borders and patterns. A lot of times they just want you to cut this down to the exact size of how long the border strip is. And I don't enjoy doing that because everyone's seam allowance is slightly different. Even though you try to get a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sometimes that doesn't happen. So I like to sew them and cut them as I go. So I'm just gonna overlap the edge of this little border strip on the side by like 1/2 inch, and then I'm gonna sew this on to both sides and trim up the edges. Before I trim my edges, I'm just gonna press this border strip out. And now we can trim up our edges by just lining up a line with our ruler with that seam line that we attached our border to and the side of the table runner in general. And then I can just trim that off, and I can do that on both edges. Perfect. Then I'll repeat that process with the other 2 sides, and everything will be absolutely perfect. So close to being done. I'm just gonna add the second border just like we did the first off camera, and then come back when this guy is finished to do the big reveal. Ah, look how cute this turned out. I love it. Oh my goodness. I still need to quilt it, and so if you have an idea for me, please put it down in the comments. I'm thinking of using a snowflake pantograph. I'm thinking of a particular one that is on the Grace Company design store, and it has snowflakes and it's so cute. And then I'm gonna bind it with this blue guy. If you want to see this table runner finished, head over to our Instagram and Facebook, and I will post pictures of it, and it's gonna be so cute. If you are interested in the pattern, remember the pattern is for free in the description below. Make sure to like and subscribe because I know you want to hang out with me again and make some more fun projects, and I'll see you next time.